It always seems to happen, Simon, in an international break. There is a quote from a player and we jump on it. The player in question on this occasion is Virgil van Dijk of Liverpool and the Netherlands. And off the back of what he says, Martin, it begs the question, is it time for players and managers to call a vote on the playing schedule? Here we go again. Now, Simon's quite right to have a laugh in the background. But Van Dijk says this. Martin, to what degree do you go with it? In England, we believe the schedules are too busy. The players are getting paid well, but it should never come at the cost of our health. We keep having to play more and more games. We as players should start saying something about it, contribute to a solution. So I would say to Virgil, all right, Virgil, what solution are you looking for?
Yeah, that is true. I'm normally, like Simon, I would normally poo-hoo these, poo-poo them, I think what is it? Is it poo-hoo? You can do both. Brilliant. Yeah. Those things about players, calling the shots, wanting to know how many games they'd want to play during the course of the season. Although I do have some empathy for it because it is really congested. And when you're playing a lot of games, and then you have the non-international players can get a little bit of a break then, and but the international players are playing these games again. They're coming back. They don't at the time. I noticed Simon laughing over there in the corner. But there is a period where you are playing a lot of games at this minute. But the more successful you are, the more games you're going to play anyway. And I must admit, in my day at Nottingham Forest,
63 games in the 78-79 season you lot played.
We've played 63 games, absolutely, with a smaller squad. And then just when we thought that we might have a free week, Clough would take us off to some testimonial game or something like this. It was incredible.
And you had no choice in the matter.
But Clough had this real belief that playing matches was better than doing the training. And a lot of players actually still believe that. You'd rather play a game during the week rather than going and doing the training.
Did you agree with that?
I actually did agree with it because, you do your pre-season work, you feel as if you've got some sort of fitness, and if you're going to be successful, which is what you want to do in the start of August, you want to play the games. You do not want to miss a match at all.
No.
So there was never any complaint about the number of games that we played at that time. Now the season does look a bit congested, but I don't want an idea of players having a viewpoint. A big viewpoint about where the season should be going and the number of games that you play.
Simon, a reporter asked Van Dijk if he'd be willing to waive 10% of his salary in order to play less matches. No, because it shouldn't depend on my salary, he says.
Well, that's my answer.
Yeah.
It's ironic, isn't it, when we sit with Martin Keown every week talking about player welfare. He didn't show much concern for players' welfare when he was booting them off the pitch as a player. But the point is that you're in a situation where we know that there is a possibility that we're getting to the point where with new terminologies, new expressions like red line for players and all of the kind of stuff that we understand that the different side of sport, the sports scientists are introducing into the equation, like the point I made. His team in 78-79, when it went on to win the European Cup against Malmo, played 63 games. These boys would have been available for international fixtures as well. You look at Man United last season, because I was looking to make a case and didn't suit my argument actually, but Man United played 70 games. But then maybe this answers questions about if you get booted out of the European Cup, you shouldn't then drop into the Europa League and play another 8 games there. Yeah. And maybe that's the point that people have got to consider. Right. But when you've got a situation, the challenge for me is, if you want to tell me how you can fix it, I'll be fascinated to hear it. Because when we get to hear those people like Martin talking about, I want to fix it, and then we say, well, how would you fix it? And then tumbleweed blows across the studio. Right. Because what they want to do is tell you what they don't want to do.
I hope when you mention Martin, you mean Martin Keown.
The other Martin.
But they tell you what they don't. The problem is they tell you what they don't want to do rather than what they will do. Now, when you're taking...
Vincent Kompany, for example, calls for a
60,
cap
70 games.
Between 60 and 70 games.
Yes, but let's be having it right. It's only the players that want to... I want to go to a club where I can play Champions League football. Okie doke then. Right, so then you're going to play more games. Right? So then go to sign for Burnley then, Virgil van Dijk, and you won't be playing 60, 70 games, will you?
And settle an argument for me. Is a game quicker or not as quick as when you played it?
Well, I would reckon that with the modern things that are available to players now, that the game is probably quicker because the back pass rule for a start. So in other words, that in our day you could knock the ball back.
Right, it's in play more.
It's Whether it's in play more, I'm not so
and
sure. But certainly
the
technology.
The pitches are different.
The pitches,
the footwear that you're wearing is different. The whole dynamic is different. The physicality of players. I still think that people like John Robertson, because he was a genius, would have been able to play in this day and age. But players of the physicality, often at that time, wouldn't have been able to compete. The irony of this is that with all seriousness, Virgil van Dijk says, if we play less games, I don't think I should take less money. In all seriousness, with this staggering lack of awareness that the only reason, at the current average Premier League wage bill, is 70% of the turnover of a football club. Then you price in the player transfers and the depreciation on those and all the other costs in a football club. It means that 95% of the cost implication of a football club are in and around the associated costs of players. So you're taking all of the money out of the room, sucking it all out, but you want none of the downside. I understand.
The Nation League, he says, that doesn't go to my salary. That's not a wage thing.
Well, playing for your country enhances your commercial value and tends to benefit your contracts. So pipe down, Virgil. Even Marco van Basten's getting fed up with listening to you.
Sorry, the point that you mentioned to me, whether the game was quick or not, are you talking about... My point has always been that a player in any particular era would be a great player even now. George Best would have been a fantastic footballer now. He would have scored another 150 goals. John Robertson would have been a super player because the things that would have been available to him, whether John would have utilised those particular things or not, I'm not so sure. He probably would have still gone into the toilet for a little fag at the time, but told to go outside now because the rules have changed. That aside, what I'm talking about is that the players, the great players, you don't tell me that Bobby Moore, players like this, wouldn't have been great players in this era because they would have had all the facilities available to them and all the things that. And as I said to you, that's I think that was the point you were trying to make.
Do you think modern players that are making this argument should really shut up and count their lucky stars?
Do you know what? I have to say this here, having spoken about it here and having had some sort of empathy for them, do you know what I'm going to do now, Jordan? I'm going to totally agree with you because absolutely right. Honestly, I don't think the players should have any. I think they've had too much say. In my day, no say. You could have stepped. You could have stepped. Seriously, my fear was stepping in on a Monday morning if Forest had been beaten, which was very occasionally, and stepping in for Brian Clough to say, "Oh, by the way, Brighton want to sign you and you're going," or something like this here, as was the case. So you don't want that. So the rules have totally changed now. The players are in total control. And I think at the end, at the top level, absolutely, just keep quiet and just get on with the game.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.